All right. Welcome to another episode of Living Well with Rentwell. I'm your co-host TJ Hock. With us today is Sean Watson. Sean is the guy that signs up new owners. How are you, Sean?
I'm good, TJ. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. We've never actually done a podcast with an internal team member before, so this is kind of cool. I'm looking forward to it. Hey, so Sean, we're here to talk about. Um, I think, as most of our listeners know, we offer full service property management, which means matching the right tenant with the right property,
hmm
taking all the maintenance calls that come through, the rent collection, court if we have to, all that good stuff. We're excited to share that we've launched a new service now called Back Office Support, and really just wanted to talk a little bit more with you about it and share what that is. So I guess, Sean, if you want to just kind of kick it off, like, what is it? Who is it ideal for? What services do we provide? All that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to be releasing this for 2023, and currently called Back Office Support. I guess the name is pending. We might change it in the future, but for now, I think that is a good description of what it does. And basically, this program is for investors, who need some help managing their properties, but are not ready to kind of turn everything over. They want to remain in control and in charge of making key decisions, which obviously, if you work with a management company, especially a full service firm, and you hand that over, you're kind of more passive than you are active. And a lot of landlords get nervous with that. They might have an apartment building that they've owned for 20 years or a bunch of single family homes. And, they're highly involved in managing of those properties. And while a lot of people don't want to be highly involved, there is a large percentage out there that want to continue to manage their own properties. So we were thinking, like, what do these investors need? You can't be everything at one time. You can't be doing the leasing and the management and the maintenance and the accounting and handling tenant relations and dealing with the contractors. Like, there's only so much time in a day. So if they don't want to hand everything over, what could we help them with? And under this program, you can leverage Rentwell's like in-house resources, to handle small details of overseeing your real estate investments. So what does that mean? Like, what would Rentwell be doing, and like, what would you, the investor, be doing? And under this program, Rentwell would help with rent collection, so the tenants would pay us. And what does that mean? So you can go to our website, and if your tenants have, banking info, if they have a credit card, they can pay online, which is a major advantage. They can also go into, various stores like a Walmart or a CVS and make a payment. They could drop off payment to our office. So you're no longer the person that's got to be worried about the rent collection, where they're constantly going towards you at all hours of the day. They can simply pay online or make various other payment options that we have available to them. And then also we can, we'll do owner draws for you, like on the 10th, the 20th, and the 30th. Our job is to collect all the rent, and then we can run like a rent roll for you, like say on the 5th of the month. Typically, rent's due on the 1st, and you have the 5th to get it in. If your leases are a little bit different, we can always, change that around. But for this example, that's typically when it is. We can run late rent reports for you, so that way you can see, okay, in my 20 unit apartment building, we had 18 tenants pay on time. These are the two that didn't pay on time. And then you can make the next steps as far as, going down that process of, collecting rent for them. And, if you have to go to eviction, kind of take those steps. So, rent collections is a big one that we'll be handling. The second one really is like fielding maintenance calls. Um, we have our staff, obviously in an office 9 to 5. We have a call center after hours. Back to that online portal that your tenants can make payments for, they can also submit work orders. So I always tell clients and tenants, if it's non-emergency, just submit it online. They'll get it, take a look at it, and get out there. If it's an emergency, pick up the phone. And then we have an emergency phone number. We have a call center. So rather than you, the investor, being the front line of getting bombarded with all these phone calls and texts, they can simply call us or submit a work order. We will field that work order and then dispatch it to you, the investor, and then you can take it from there. You could also maybe have like a go-to general contractor that handles, maintenance for all your properties. We could also send it to them directly. This way, again, you're not the front line for maintenance, as well as you're not the front line for the rent collection. And then I think third is really like the reporting. I think one thing I see with investors, especially when they come over to Rentwell, I'm like, can I see, a rent roll? Can I see leases? Can I see, statements? And they are not very organized. They rarely have any of this documentation. So, with our software, you as the investor can log in, through our website. You can get monthly statements. You can get yearly statements. You can have all the tenant ledgers on there. You can have all the tenant leases. We can set reminders for when your tenant's lease is coming up. Something, I mean, I used to forget. You get a bunch of different properties. It's like, all right, did I renew them in June, or was it 2022, or was it 2021? It's impossible to remember all this. So we can automate that where you're going to get reminders for lease renewals, and we're going to get reminders for perhaps like a rental license or something like that. Maybe where you live, it has to be done yearly or every other year. So that's kind of like the big thing that I see, helping investors is the rent collection, fielding the maintenance calls, and then helping with some of the reporting and bookkeeping for the property. So that's kind of like the overview I see.
Yeah, it's actually really, I believe, an exciting new offer. Because the genesis came out of, at least in the Delaware County region, there's a lot of owners who still like to very much be involved, and
Hmm.
kind of this program allows them to still be in control.
Yeah,
Find
absolutely.
tenants, have the relationships, and this is it truly more like that back office support. Like, kind of think of us like software,
Hmm.
for the owners, and hopefully reduce the number of phone calls that come through, you know, uh, reduce walking around to collect rent, collect cash at the beginning of each month. And I think the power of this is really leveraging the technology that we have. So we use Appfolio as the management software. And man, I just, maybe I'm biased to it, but I just feel like all the updates that they do are valuable updates, and not just
Hmm.
because they can,
Yeah.
and to your point, like, they can still pay cash. So like if that's what they're used to doing with, the landlord, they can still pay cash, but they just go to a CVS, a Walmart, a 7-Eleven, uh,
Hmm.
that little barcode that shows up. So it really is more, um, supporting them. The landlord remains in control, hopefully reducing the phone calls. We can give them, through the technology, all the reporting that they kind of want or hope for. To your point, the maintenance call center, it's 24/7, it's bilingual. And the beauty about it is that we can set it up so that it goes directly to the owner, or directly to perhaps a preferred vendor that they have. And just really be that. I almost also want to use the word frontline of defense, because we
Hmm.
are in some ways.
Yeah, I think for the because I always run into owners where they have like 20, 25 unit apartment buildings, and they always want, like, I have a couple go-to people for maintenance, and lots of times it's like an individual that's living at the apartment building, and us as like a management company, like, we have to work with people that are licensed, insured, because we're third party. So lots of times we're not able to accommodate under this. That person could be like, hey, this is the person that fields all the maintenance. I mean, we field the calls, and then we send it over to that person, and they kind of take it from there, and you still have control. You're still overseeing the maintenance. You're still placing tenants. If you want to meet the tenants before they move in, you're able to do that. You're handling the unit turns, you're handling the evictions. So, you're still basically the property manager. Just Rentwell is kind of filling some of the gaps when it comes to, the back end, kind of why we call it back office support. That's where we can kind of fill those gaps.
Yeah. Who is this not a good fit for?
So yeah, I would say if you're a new investor, I don't think this is the program for you. Or if you don't have time. So I guess the first, if you are experienced investor, like, do you have time to do all this? Obviously, up to this point, you've been doing it. Do you want to continue to do it? If you don't, and you're like, I'm burned out, I want to turn this over, then yes, we have the more traditional management companies, which I can take you through, and we can, put something together for you to kind of, offload leasing and management and all these other, tasks where you become more passive than the active frontline, property manager that you're currently now. um, but if you're even if you do have the time and you're inexperienced, I would probably turn it over to our management company, because what's going to happen is you're probably going to need some more support than just us collecting the rent. You're going to have questions on leasing. You're going to have questions on rental licenses, or you're going to have questions on rental rates. You're going to have questions on, a lot of them are like tenant relations. Hey, the tenant's asking me this, or he's demanding this. How would I handle this? Well, if you're a landlord for 10 years, I don't want to say you've seen everything. You've probably seen a lot and you know how to handle things. If you're a new investor, you're probably not going to know how to handle that, and you're going to need someone to talk to. And under this program, we're more of, like you said, we're like the software, we're the back office. We're not the ones making on the front line the decisions based on leasing, maintenance, and tenant relations. So if you don't have the experience, if you don't have a list of contractors that can service your building, if you don't have experience and are good with people, I notice a lot of our clients are very good with like finding deals. They're very good with like putting a scope of work together and overseeing contractors. But when it comes to dealing with tenants, like they don't want to get involved because it's a very confrontational, like full contact sport, so to speak. And if you're not good at that, then I wouldn't recommend this program. And I think to be good at that, you have to get experience, and you probably have to be burned a little bit and made some wrong decisions along the way. And I think this is more for the experienced investor. This is for the investor that's sick of like, hey, I got a text message from my tenant asking if I got the check yet. And I haven't gone to the mailbox yet. And I got like 30 units, and a couple of these tenants every month keep texting, get the check, get the check. It's like, relax, I'll check it when I get it. I haven't been down there yet. With this, you don't have to worry about that because they're paying online, or they're paying at a Walmart, they're paying at CVS. And you're still in control of dealing with the tenants, but you do have that experience and you have time to do it. So I think that's the big difference. If you're a new investor, I would go right to either working with a management company, or maybe self-managing. But the back office support is more for the experienced investor that owns an apartment building, or maybe owns a couple scatter sites, and really just wants to get a little bit better organized, I would say, but can still handle those confrontational situations that you run into, that you and I have been through a bunch of times at this point. So I would say I have to be more experienced, I think.
That's a good point you brought up about the tenant portal. The other plus side to this is that if you've been self-managing for 10, 20, 30 years,
Hmm.
back to leveraging technology, this is an upside for your residents as well, because now they have a portal, they can see the status, of work orders, they can see
Yeah.
the status of their rent payment, they can pay online for free, or they can still pay by cash, but it gets deposited electronically. Like there's a lot of different options there. And so from a tenant relations standpoint, I think that this is also a win.
Yeah.
Um,
And,
yeah,
and as you and as you as the years go by and you get more and more tenants, getting younger, they're all doing everything on this. They're all on the smartphone. They want to pay rent on this. And with Appfolio, you can absolutely pay rent like this. So they can literally just go into the account, make the payment, and they're done.
yeah.
Um, and and if they don't have like a bank account or a credit card, and they are, like you said, like paying cash. I mean, I personally don't want to be walking around with a bunch of cash collecting from tenants. I mean, yeah, that's kind of dangerous. So, with this, they can still go into, a list of stores that we can provide where they can make payments that way and still get you paid. So, yeah, I think it's a win-win all around.
In fact, Appfolios even they have what they call the labs, like Appfolio
Hmm.
labs, and they're testing now where it can sync with Alexa. So
Oh, really?
people who are more comfortable with that could say, Alexa, pay my rent, and
Wow.
things synced, or Alexa, put through a maintenance request. Like I really believe Appfolio's like on that bleeding edge of technology and using it, and
Hmm.
they got some really neat stuff coming down, and for landlords to be able to benefit from that and still remain in control, I think is it's a pretty nice setup.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely agree.
All right. So we talked about who's not a good fit. We talked about who is a good fit. I'd love to dig in a little bit more about like almost specifically what are we doing versus what is the landlord doing, just to be crystal clear on
Hmm.
what services exactly are we providing. And I think you gave a really good high level overview that Rentwell is really collecting rent, we're fielding the maintenance calls, and then
Hmm.
We'll send that off to the owner.
Yep.
We have the monthly financial reporting,
Hmm.
which can include your 12-month P&L. It can include your balance sheet, your cash flow statement, the owner statement. 3 owner draws a month. I mean, that's almost unheard of in the property management world. And what we mean by owner draw is when we send the owner their money. So we would collect the rent, and then we send you, you know, your share. The
Hmm.
fact that we would do that on the 10th, the 15th, and the 30th is pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
So we would do that. We could generate the pay or quit notices on behalf of the owner. So we won't post the notices, we won't mail the notices, but we can generate them and email them over to the owner as a PDF, and then they can do with that as they wish.
Hmm.
We of course mentioned the 24-hour emergency maintenance call center. Uh, you had mentioned the lease renewal reminders we can send out. Tenant insurance expiration, which I think is a huge one. A lot of self-managed or owners who self-manage probably skip that step.
100%. I
Until
find it rare that I get that.
do you? Oh,
Absolutely. I mean, they've really, for the most part, like leases are years old. They have no tenant ledgers. Not the end of the world, but like, all right, is this tenant paid on time? And it's like, oh yeah, this guy owes me like $400. Well, where's that documented? Like this is some of the things I see when we onboard a new client. Um, if they have, especially if they're self-managed, that they just need to be better organized, and that's where this program could help. If they're working with another management company, like typically they'll have some of this documentation. But yeah, I think insurance is huge. They can simply, they might have, when they moved in, showed you that, hey, I got renter's insurance, but do they still have it a year later? I bet they don't. You
yeah.
know,
Yep.
so
Yeah,
that's
and
a
are you
reminder.
asking, and to your point, even if they give it to you then, are you named as the certificate holder, so when they do cancel, you get alerted to it? So
Correct.
there's a tip, anybody listening to this, make sure that you get added as the certificate holder. Not,
Hmm.
additional insured is something separate, but if you get named as certificate holder, you will get alerted if they didn't renew or there's a change in the policy. And I mean, look, the reality is with today's rising lawsuits, we have a separate show where we talked with our insurance broker about this, and there's truth behind it. You really need to make sure you're protecting yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you own an apartment building and you've had it for 10 years, I'd say there's less than 0% chance you're not going to get sued at least once. Over that 10 years, if you have like 20 units or something like that, or even if you have like, hey, I don't have apartment buildings, but I own like 15 single family homes or something like that, or 10 single family homes. I mean, the odds are over the years, it might not even be your tenants. It could be someone walking by. I mean, how many slip and falls do we get? Oh, the sidewalk wasn't done, or they claim it wasn't done, and it's important to have that renter's insurance. Or if you allow pets, and the tenant, the tenant's pit bull that was told was a lab mix, runs off and bites someone, God forbid, you want to make sure that that tenant has 300,000 liability, 500, at least something, so it's just not going all on you. Now, an attorney's going to sue everyone, but at least if you have that renter's insurance, you get some kind of coverage. And think how many times we've been, saved by having, that kind of coverage. So I think it's
Oh, yeah,
important to have those kind of reminders.
it really is.
Yeah.
And so that's the extent of the services. The owner then really, they're doing the tenant placement. They're negotiating if rent is late, what that looks like.
Hmm.
And then of course they can let us know what they've agreed to, and we can update the ledger to reflect that. They're handling all the daily maintenance, which is, if they have their own vendors, or they're paying their uh, maintenance vendors directly. If court has to come up, or evictions, or filing for LT, they would take care of all that. Perhaps once we get started, we just see what you know kind of happens here, and maybe there's some additional services we can add on. But at least for the time being, really the you know owner is in the daily weeds of the management, and
Hmm.
taking care of the back
Yeah.
office.
Yeah, it's definitely for someone who has experience and has the time to do it. And yeah, as far as like additional services, I mean, we know we use Matterport camera a lot. We use rental lock, so that could be something that these owners might want to have us do. So we could do 3D modeling of their apartment building or their houses, so that way it's done one time, and then if they have vacancies coming up, I think it helps with everything being so online these days, people pretty much know your house before they even get to it, or they know your apartment before they get to it. And with Matterport, they can, basically do like a 3D walkthrough right online and say, yep, this looks good, or no, this isn't for me. And it kind of saves time. So we can do that for as an additional service. The rental locks as well, it's a one-time thing where you don't have to pay for a locksmith to come all the time. I think it makes a ton of sense if you have an apartment building or a handful of properties where you're paying that once, and then when tenants move in and out, we're just taking the core out, putting a new core in, or in this case would be the investor doing that. But it makes a lot of sense, and that's something we could additionally help with to help the investment go a little bit smoother. So
Yeah. Yeah. I love the one thing I love about Matterport, and the little rabbit trail here, but the fact they give you the schematic floor plans, we found has helped tremendously, both from a remodel perspective, right? That if you want to go out and get bids on
hmm
paint or the floor, like you have your square footage there.
yeah,
Or from a prospective resident, they can see the measurements. They know if their couch is going to fit, if it
yep.
doesn't. And it kind of reduces that, hey, let me go see the property 4 times so I can take measurements. And oops, I forgot something.
Yeah,
Um,
the measurements is pretty big. 'Cause as a someone who did a lot of leasing in the past, like, hey, what was the measurement of that bedroom? And it's like the house was built in 1930. I have no idea. Like I'm just like 8 by 6, like Matterport, boom, 8 by 5.5, and they say, okay, my queen size bed could fit in here, or what was the outline of like the floor plan or whatever it might be, and they can literally just walk through, and it's pretty cool. I mean, we've done it on a couple different properties, and I think it does. We should probably keep track of it a little bit better. My guess is it rents properties, 20% quicker, because the people that are actually showing up to the apartment or showing up to the house feel like they've already seen it because they've already walked through the property. Now it's just like, okay, what I want to see what I saw online just in person, just to make sure, it's legitimately there. It's the same thing, so it just
yeah.
saves a lot of time, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, very good, Sean. I appreciate having the conversation with you. Good to finally, we should do more of this. We should.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you're interested in rentwell.com, is it /support? Is that where we can get more information? I think we're going to be, it's not live yet, but I think it'll be up in a couple days, right?
Yes. Yeah. Rentwell.com/support. So here's a little trick on the whole slashes, because I know it gets confusing. And the trick is, if you picture a point,
Yes.
where the bottom is sitting. If it leans forward, that's a forward slash. If it leans backwards, that's a backslash. So
Okay.
rentwell.com /
Forward slash. All
forward
right. My
slash.
bad. Don't backslash then. My bad.
That'll take you to a dead page.
Yes.
/ support. And I think we'll have some videos there where they can learn some more. We'll have a sample copy of the agreement, and a detailed outline of what services does Rentwell provide versus what would the landlord provide. And Sean, if anybody has any questions and they want to get in touch with you directly, how would they do that?
You can send me an email, swatson@rentwell.com. You can call or shoot me a text, 484-680-3840. Or like we said, we'll have a web page for this as well. We'll probably talk about this a little bit more in the future, but this will be something that we'll be advertising and coming out with. So yeah, if you're interested in hearing more about it, just reach out to me and I can talk you through it. And I'm happy to talk to you. If just reach out and we can kind of go from there.
Beautiful. I appreciate it, Sean. Thank you.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you for listening to Living Well with Rentwell. We hope you loved that episode.
Please be sure to head over to our website at rentwell.com/vision. We're giving away our free program called Vision Through Purposeful Action. If you're a busy person, if you struggle with finding the time and priorities, or if you're experiencing procrastination and overwhelm, this free course will help you with that.
We wish you a blessed day. Thank you for tuning in, and check in later.